Let us now proceed to types of proportion and its applications. So, types of proportion and its applications. So, at the end of this lesson, the learner should be able to identify the different types of proportion and give examples for each. Solve problems involving direct, inverse, and partitive proportion. So, we have the three types of proportion mentioned in our competency. So the first one is the direct proportion. Direct proportion is when a number is directly proportionate to another. When one value increases, so does the other value also increases. Or when one value decreases, so does the other number or the other value increases. So two values x and y are directly proportional to each other when x and y will either increase or decrease together, such that when one increases, the other increases, or when one decreases, the other decreases as well. In this, it is an equality in ratios, where an increase in one quantity causes an increase also in another quantity, or a decrease in one quantity causes a decrease in another quantity. So let us have some real-life examples involving direct proportion. So the first one, we have buying an item. So the more you buy, the more you will spend money. So pag dami kang binili, no? Halimbawa, if you go to shopping, no? If you buy more items, then you will spend a lot of money. That is a direct proportion. Cooking one recipe, where your ingredients must be balanced to make it delicious. When you cook more, you need to add more ingredients. So kapag madami yung lulutuin mo, ibig sabihin, madami din yung ingredients na gagamitin mo sa pagluluto. That is direct proportion. And same thing happens if you cook small amount. You need to reduce the ingredients. Pag konti lang yung lulutuin mo, syempre magre-reduce ka din ng ingredients. Konti lang din yung ingredients na magagamit mo sa pagluluto. That is also a direct proportion. Next thing is baking pandesal. So in baking pandesal, 2 cups of flour is to 1 egg. Or when increased, you will use 4 cups of flour is to 2 eggs. That is the ratio. So as you can see in baking pandesal, you are applying a direct proportion. So we have our first example. 4 oranges weigh as much as 7 lemons. So at this rate, how many lemons will weigh as much as 36 oranges? So in our example, we need to find for the unknown. So for our first statement now here, as you can see, we have 4 oranges. That is already given. So the number of oranges, no, we have 4 oranges. Weigh as much. So the statement weigh as much is pertaining to a proportion. As much as 7 lemons. So ibig sabihin, meron tayong ratio of orange to lemons. Okay? So it must be expressed, the ratio of orange to lemons, as 4 is to 7. 4 corresponds to 4 oranges and 7 corresponds to 7 lemons. So the ratio dito ay 4 is to 7. So we let x and y equivalent to oranges and lemons. So we let x as oranges, and y equals to lemons. So gumamit tayo ng x and y dahil meron tayong unknown sa problem. So, ano yung hinahanap sa problem? How many lemons will weigh. So, how many lemons? Ibig sabihin, yung Y, yung unknown sa problem natin. That is correspond to the number of lemons na hahanapin natin. Will weigh as much as 36 oranges. So, yung 36 correspond to oranges. So, yung X natin is 36. Okay? So, yung ratio natin sa kabilang equation is X is to Y, which means oranges is to lemons. So, therefore, our equation will be 4 is to 7 equals 36 is to Y. We are following the same order. 4 corresponds to 4 oranges, is to 7 corresponds to lemons. Same thing happens in the right side of our equation, no? So we have 36 corresponds also to our oranges, and is to Y, which is the unknown in the problem, corresponds to the number of lemons na hahanapin natin kung ilan ba sila. So, as we recall in our previous lesson, we can express ratio as fraction. So, 4 is to 7 is the same as 4 over 7, or 4 divided by 7 is equal to 36 is to Y, which is also expressed in fraction in the form of 36 over Y, or 36 divided by Y. So, we will apply cross product or cross multiplication. So, by applying cross multiplication, Y, so will become 4 times Y sa left side of our equation. So, same thing happens if we cross multiply 36 times 7. Okay? So, 4 times Y is 4Y. And 36 times 7 is how much? That is 252. Okay, that is 46 times 7. We get 252. And equals 4Y. Okay, so to find the value of Y, we need to divide both sides by 4. So, next, 4Y divided by 4 is equal to Y. Makakancel yung 4. And what is 252 divided by 4? That is equivalent to 63. So, our final answer is Y equals to 63 lemons. Therefore, the ratio of 4 is to 7 is proportion to 36 oranges is to 63 lemons. So our final answer, Y equals to 63 lemons. Okay, example number 2. If 3 notebooks cost 15 pesos, how many notebooks can you buy with 60 pesos? So in our first statement, as you can see here, you will get 3 notebooks that may cost 15 pesos. That is already a ratio, no? 3 notebooks is to 15 pesos. So what is the requirement in the problem? Ano yung hinahanap sa problem? How many notebook? So yung notebook natin, we let that as X. No? So ilang notebook daw yung mabibili mo, no? If you have 60 pesos, that is also a ratio. So the number of notebooks is directly proportional to the cost, no? Okay, so 3 over 15, that is, nakuha natin yan sa ratio na 3 notebook is to 15 pesos. So if we express that in fraction, that is 3 over 15, or 3 divided by 15 is equal to the number of notebooks na hinahanap natin sa problem. We let that as X. That is the unknown in the problem. Divided by 60 pesos. Okay, so that is our equation of proportionality. So since that we have this equation, we can now apply cross multiply or cross product, cross multiplication. Okay, so to cross multiply natin, that is 3 times 60 is equal to, so what is 3 times 60? That is 180 equals 15 times x, which is 15x. So to get the value of our x, we need to divide both sides of our equation by 15. So makakancel yung 15 natin. Okay. And sa kabila naman, 180 over 15 is how much? So x equals to 180 over 15, which is equivalent to 12. So therefore, there are 12 notebook that you can buy with a cost of 60 pesos. Next problem. Okay, so we have 2 jeepneys can transport 40 people. That is already a proportion, no? So sa dalawang jeepney daw, makakapag-transport siya or dala siya ng 40 katao. Transport 40 people. So that is a ratio of 2:40. Next statement naman, how many jeepneys are needed? So yung number of jeepneys yung hinahanap sa problem. To transport 80 people. Okay, so 80 people is already given. Pero we have to find how many jeepneys we need in order to transport 80 people. So given tayo ng number of jeepneys na 2 and the number of people na 40 and the number of people that should be transported with the unknown value of jeepney na equivalent sa 80. Okay, so we have our table here, no? So in this table, we can now see that it is equivalent to this equation of proportionality. So we have 2 jeepneys over 40 people is equal to the number of jeepneys needed to transport 80 people, that is n over 80. Okay, so now we can apply cross multiplication. So what is 80 times 2? So 80 times 2 is 160. So cross multiply din natin yung sa kabila. So that is n times 40 or 40n. Okay, so in order to find the value of our n, we need to divide both sides by 40. Okay, so 40 will be cancelled out sa right side of our equation, and 160 over 40 is how much? That is 4 jeepneys. So in order to transport 80 people, we need 4 jeepneys. That is our final answer. Inverse and indirect proportion. So two values x and y are inversely proportional to each other, such that if x increases, y decreases, or if x decreases, y increases. So for example of inversely proportional quantities is the length and width of rectangle with the same area. So as the length of one side doubles, the width has to be half for the area to stay the same, no? So the length will increase, no? As you can see here, the length on one side doubles, so it will increase. And since that we are talking inverse proportion, the other one must be decreased. So the width must be decreased or has to be half for area to be the same. So An area of 5 cm by 4 cm rectangle has an area of 20 square centimeter. So to apply inverse proportion, if the 5 cm side becomes 10 cm, it will be doubled, no? Obviously. Then the 4 cm will reduce, no? Since that our one side of our rectangle increase or double, so it will be reduced. So it will become 2 cm only, or half of the original width of our rectangle. So the new dimension will be 10 cm by 2, and it is still obviously the same as the previous area, which is 20 square centimeter. That is an application of inverse proportion in real life application or real life situation. In an inverse proportion, one quantity increases as the other quantity decreases, so at the same rate and vice versa. So we have our example. If 12 men in a department store can finish a work in 9 days, so that is already a ratio, no? Of men to work days. So the time here is in days, no? The work should be done in 9 days if we need 12 men. So that is ratio of 12 is to 9, no? 12 men is to 9 days, no? So the unknown here is how many men can finish the same work. We assume that they have the same work to be done in 6 days. Okay, so how many men can finish the same work in 6 days? Okay, so the number of men is unknown in our problem. So if we create a table that is number of men and the number of days, no? In our first column, the number of men is 12 and the number of days is 9. Okay, as you can see here, that is the ratio 12 is to 9. In our second column, we have the number of men that is unknown in the problem. Yan yung hinahanap natin sa problem. Yan yung sinusolve natin is to 6 days. So the question here is how many men can finish the same work, no? Since that we assume that they have the same work, if they do their job in just 6 days. So it is given that the 12 men can finish a work in 9 days. Now for 6 days, we are still looking for it. That is why we let us put n first. No, we let n equivalent to the number of men that can do the job or can finish the work in just 6 days. Okay, so the next step is to set up a proportion as indirect by interchanging the position of n horizontally. So if we change it horizontally, since na kanina, no, if we look at our previous table, no, eto yung itsura ng table natin, no. Yung 12 is in the left side and n is in the right side. So ipagpapalit natin sila ng posisyon, i-interchange natin sila. So yung mangyayari, yung table natin magiging ganito na. I-interchange natin sila because we are talking about inverse proportion. So babalik na rin natin. So by inversely or interchanging, no, our n and 12, ito yung mangyayari. Yan na yung bagong table natin. So now we are ready to find for the missing terms. Okay, so based in our new table, we interchange the position of n, which is our unknown in the problem, horizontally to the given number 12. So our new ratio based in our new table is n is to 9. Okay, wait lang. Ayusin natin. That is n is to 9 equals 12 is to 6. Okay. So that should be expressed in fraction in order to apply cross product rule or cross multiplication. So n is to 9 is also expressed in fraction as n divided by 9 or n over 9 is equal to 12 is to 6 expressed in fraction, that is 12 divided by 6 or 12 over 6. Now we can now apply cross multiplication. So n times 6 is 6n equals 9 times 12 is 108. Okay? So to get the value of our n, we need to divide both sides by 6. Okay. So 6 will be cancelled out, become 1n or simply n na lang. And what is 108 divided by 6? That is 18. So n equals to 18. Okay, that is our final answer. So we need 18 men to finish the job in 6 days. Okay, so 18 men is to 6 days. That is our final answer. N equals to 18 men. Next type of proportion is the partitive proportion. So in a partitive proportion, a whole is divided into parts that is proportional to the given ratio. So a number is being divided or distributed into 2 or more unequal parts. Means that we divide a total amount into 2 or more that satisfy a given ratio. To determine the amount of each term, we can write down the fraction that each term represents in relation to the whole. This fraction can be multiplied to the total amount to obtain the corresponding quantity for each term. So as a whole, we divide a whole into 2 or more unequal parts. So partitive proportion is sometimes called proportion by parts. So we have example number 1. So a glass of jar has 64 chocolate. Jeff, Leia, and Dave will share the ratio of 1:1:2. How many chocolate will each one of them get? Okay, again, in our example, a glass of jar has 64 chocolate. That is the total number of chocolate in a jar. No? We have 64 chocolate. Jeff, Leia, and Dave will share the chocolates in the ratio 1:1:2. So paghahatian nila yung chocolate na yun, no? Since that we have 64 chocolate in a jar, so may ratio sila na 1:1:2. The question here is how many chocolate will each of them get? So for our solution, so here in the problem, we need to divide the 64 chocolate, that is the total number of chocolate in the jar, into Jeff, Leia, and Dave, considering the given ratio. No? Alam natin yung given na ratio. corresponds to Jeff, Leia, and Dave. That is 1:1:2. So we need first to write a table, no? Corresponds to the ratios of Jeff, Leia, and Dave respectively. So for Jeff, we have 1:2, Leia, which is 1:2, Dave, which is 2. So our first step is to find the sum of the ratio. Since the ratio is 1:1:2, let's add the number. So simply add lang natin yung mga number na yon in our given ratio. So we have 1 plus 1 plus 2. That is 4. So second step natin, divide the base by the sum. The base is the total number of chocolate. So we already know the total number of chocolate to be 64. And let us divide 64 by our sum. So our sum is 4, no? Na-obtain natin yan sa ating first step. Okay, if we take a look our previous solution, the sum is 4. So total number of chocolate divide lang sa sum natin na 4. So 64 divide 4, that will give us the value of 16. So our third step, multiply each quantity by the quotient. Alam natin yun na yung quotient ng 64 over 4 is 16. Yan yung gagamitin natin to multiply each quantity. So yung quantity, kukunin natin yan sa ratio, sa given ratio with respect to Jeff ratio, Leia's ratio, and Dave ratio. So in our third step, 16, which is our quotient, times 1, the ratio of Jeff is equivalent to 16. Therefore, Jeff has 16 chocolates, or 16 chocolates for Jeff. Next, we have 16 as our quotient times 1 is the ratio of Leia, which is equivalent to 16. So Leia has 16 chocolate. Next, we have 16 as our quotient times 2, which is the ratio of Dave. So 16 times 2 is 32. So Dave has 32 chocolate. So let's check if our answer is correct. So simply add lang natin, no? Let's add the number of chocolate each of them get. So that is 16 plus 16 plus 32. So 16 plus 16 is 32 plus 32. The total number of chocolate is 64. So okay siya, no? That is also equivalent to the given total number of chocolates in our jar. So therefore, our answer is correct. So ganyan lang po yung pag-solve ng partitive proportion, no? We have to follow the steps involved. The first step, the second step, and the third step.